You're on 91.7 The Edge, WSCW Whitewater. How's everyone doing today?
Good.
Awesome.
Anyone ready for Halloween this weekend? Little Halloween parties, anyone?
Oh yeah.
Anyone get a good costume picked out? Not yet?
I think I got the mustache. I could go as Aaron Rodgers.
Aaron Rodgers, a little
not?
tilted. We'll be talking about him a little bit later on the show. Looks like I'll be going as Squidward this year, so in case you guys can visualize that. Or what the Sigma? But anyways, great day here in Whitewater, Wisconsin, and let's talk about some sports here on this Monday Hawk Talk. We'll start off with the Warhawk Thought, the question I posed for you gentlemen today. If you could change any one rule in any sport of your choice, what would the rule change be, and how do you think it would make your sport better? Zach, we'll start with you. What's a good rule change?
Well, for NASCAR, get rid of the playoffs, period.
Get rid of the playoffs.
Yes, please. From 2014 to 2023, we've only crowned 3 true champions, which were Martin Truex Jr. 2017, Kyle Busch in 2019, and then Kyle Larson 2021. And all the other years, they weren't even the champion who won that year wasn't even a true champion the whole year.
So what do you propose in substitution?
I would just go back to the old system where consistency is key, you know?
Winning throughout the year?
Yeah, or
system?
having just being consistent all year. That's like the best. That's just the best format that just is perfect with NASCAR. Like any kind of format that involves like a Game 7 kind of moment, like a playoffs or anything, or even the chase. Nope. Just get rid of it, period. It's just hurting the sport entirely.
I think my roommate would agree with that. Like I said earlier in previous episodes, he's a big Tyler Reddick fan, so he basically needed a win from Reddick this week for Reddick to advance in the playoffs.
Oh, and I tell your friend I said congrats on his driver winning yesterday.
He was very, very happy, needless to say.
Yeah, last lap move against Ryan Blaney, that was crazy.
But like I said, to your point, without a win yesterday, especially because I'm not sure which track it is next week, but my roommate mentioned Reddick's not the greatest at that track, so in order to make the next round, because he flipped last week, he really needed a win this week.
Well, my favorite driver, Chase Elliott, he's in a must-win. He needs to win next week. But if you remember, though, in 2020, he was in a must-win situation going into Martinsville, and he won. And guess what happened the next week at Phoenix? He won the title. So who knows? Maybe that'll happen this year. He'll win in a must-win situation, and then go to the Final Four and maybe win a second title. Who knows?
We will see. My favorite driver, Logano's in the Final Four, now Reddick is, and we will see this next week at Martinsville. Adam, any rule change to a sport?
Well, before the show, I remember we were talking about how during the regular season, if like a Major League Baseball game goes into the extra innings, like how you have like the automatic runner that begins the inning. Well, why have that during the regular season and not during the playoffs? Either you have it during the regular season and during the playoffs, or just just completely get rid of it.
I agree. I am strongly against the runner on second base. I think it kind of defeats the whole purpose of baseball, because starting at home and getting to home to score. I know they were experimenting with it during the COVID season and everything, but now it's become a staple. But I agree. If it's going to be a thing in the regular season, I think it should carry over to the postseason. So in my opinion, there should be no runner on second. What do you think? So do you think it should be in the postseason as well, or just no runner on second at all?
Yeah, just no runner on.
Thank you.
Yeah, no runner on at all. As you said, it kind of defeats the purpose.
I agree, because the home team is at a significantly stronger advantage throughout the game, because if the away team doesn't score in the top of the 10th, you're just a sack bunt and a ball in the outfield away from winning the game. So I agree with you 100%. Chris, any rule change you'd like to propose?
I think we should add in something to punish our referees in any sport, like especially baseball, with those awful umpires, because they get away with the stuff they do without Angel Hernandez and what's that other guy's name? C.B. Buckner, I think. They're so awful. Like I just they call a bad game and then just nothing happens. And then in football, all those bad penalty calls or those missed penalty calls, I think there should be a little bit of repercussion for what they get away with.
And I do agree with that. I believe officials for games need to be held to a significantly higher standard than they are now, because it's a lot harder for baseball because of the umpire union and everything. Because we even see now in the 7 games for the World Series that none of the umpires, and according to their actual call percentage being correct, were in the top 10 of the 92 qualified home plate umpires this year. So how do we expect in the World Series, the grandest stage of them all, to not have people that are the best at their job. One thing that is kind of new this year, the Knicks are doing ref reports after the game, which I've now noticed. Have you seen that?
Yeah.
They are doing ref reports after the game, grading calls and whatnot, and what official made the calls. And I think they're trying to spark a change throughout the league to where if a lot of the other teams do ref reports, they can come up with statistics saying, hey, this ref doesn't call a great game here, or hey, this ref is a little bit biased to the Lakers here, the Knicks there, etc. I think that's great for the sport, and there needs to be more things done to hold officials to a higher standard.
Can we release the ref reports of every Chiefs game with Patrick Mahomes?
Yeah, if the ref reports existed for the Chiefs, annoying. Anyways, now I'm upset. Carson, any rule change?
Well, kind of like the MLB and the extra innings. Well, this is for overtime in the NFL. They did change it finally for postseason, but it kind of goes along with the MLB. Why not do it for the regular season too? So that would be my biggest thing. I mean, play it how it's going to be in the postseason all season long. So.
And so that it's not like the college overtime rule. It's where each team gets possession.
Yeah,
once.
because in the postseason, the NFL now they changed that rule because of a couple of years ago. But both teams can possess the ball in overtime, but in the regular season, if the team that gets it first scores, they win, then the other team doesn't have a shot. So I think they should just make it the standard for regular season and postseason that both teams get a shot. So
I agree with that 100% because I know the Niners last year were actually unaware of the overtime rules at all. And that's why when they won the coin toss, they elected to defend first, where you would think mathematically it would be best to have the ball first.
Yeah, but they should know the rules too. But yeah.
So we'll see, but I agree with you 100%. That should definitely be something that occurs throughout the NFL season because how can you prepare for the postseason if rules are going to change?
Yeah.
Mason, any rule changes?
I have two main ideas. My first one, I'm taking from hockey a little bit. I feel like fighting should just be in every single sport. I feel like it should just be like you can fight, just agree to it. Well, not even agree, just you fight. You can fight one time per game. Each team has one fight per game, and then I guess they get on like they get like you use up a timeout or something like that for it. I don't know how they organize it, but like for example, earlier on this season when I saw Josh Giddey bucking up at Giannis, I'm like, what if Giannis actually just try to fight Josh Giddey, and Josh Giddey just like that wouldn't go well for him. So I kind of want to see that. Just so some of the players that talk a little bit too much, they can actually have to back it up. And then you'd also see players like, I kind of miss like the players of, NBA teams and other teams that would just be like the enforcer. I kind of miss that archetype of player. So I want to see that back a little bit, and that would help with that. And then on a different note, this is one that if you play on like the playground or like just hooping them with their friends or whatever, there should be each team has one per game, just on my mama call where it's
for a pickup basketball game.
Just anything that happens is if you get a foul or a flag, on my mama, I didn't do it, and it just wipes it off. But you can counter somebody's with your own, and then at that point, you gotta shoot for it.
And then it cancels out like PEMDAS?
Something like that. And then after that, you just shoot for ball, and then boom. Really, shooting for ball should just be that in general for lots of the calls where it's like iffy calls. I feel like shooting for ball, like, if you're calling foul, then shoot for it. And if you miss, it's not. If you make it, then it is. Or just on my mama, I didn't do it, and then boom, it gets wiped out.
I could imagine a Game 7 scenario where they call a foul on LeBron. He goes, on my mama. And
I feel like that would make it electric, though. Like that would really upgrade the sport, enhance it a lot. I feel like both those would be box office changes. So yeah.
I wish somebody would have fought Tyreek Stevenson yesterday. But.
Oh yeah.
Oh, we will definitely be covering that later.
We could have used that fight rule for like an OBJ Josh Norman game.
I would have loved that.
I would pay for that.
Hey, all right, this might be just me, but like during a baseball game, like when like a player or like a coach like disagrees with the umpire and they get really heated, why can umpires touch them?
But
you
as soon
can't
as the
touch
managers make
umpires?
contact.
But why can't you touch the umpires? Like
We should have Pat Murphy and the home plate umpire to
That's
start
something I
scrapping.
have realized.
That would be funny.
The past MLB fights I've seen on TV.
Like, you can't touch the umpires, but yet the umpires can touch you. It's like, why? Like, that's not fair.
They're untouchable.
I didn't even know that was a thing in baseball.
That's a thing.
Yeah, if a manager or whoever comes out makes contact with an ump, it's an automatic suspension and a fine. I'm pretty sure. But I would like to see fighting back in sports, though. Like, throw it back to the 80s. I remember
Or like Robert
Kareem
Ventura against
squaring
Nolan.
up, Kermit Washington breaking a guy's jaw, Rudy Tomjanovich back in the 70s.
Shaq throwing a basketball at Charles Barkley's head.
Those were electric stuff. I had one rule proposal. Mine's for basketball, so mine's more statistics. So as a big player of my career in NBA 2K, I would always get tilted as a point guard anytime I threw it to a guy cutting to the basket, and they would get fouled and miss the shot, and then make both free throws. Like, I want my assists. So my
You're
rule
taking
proposal.
away from my playmaking badge.
So
buddy.
my rule proposal would be that if a point guard throws a ball to a center or anyone else and they're immediately fouled on their shot and they make both free throws, I believe the guard should be credited with an assist because that shot would not have existed if it weren't for the pass. So trying to build up the stat sheet for some point guards out there.
And your playmaking badges.
Exactly, and those playmaking badges. I actually sent a email to Adam Silver in middle school about that, and I did get a response signed from Adam, but it was probably some intern, but I have it hung up in my room. I'm very proud to have an email from Adam Silver as a big basketball fan. But yeah, we're going to make it a rule change one day. We're going
That
to
actually should just straight up be a rule. I'm not sure why that.
let the
isn't
point
a
guards
thing.
eat, give them an assist. But great rules, guys. I'm very glad that it was diverse throughout a bunch of sports and not similar topics. So very good topic there. That went a lot better than I was expecting.
Similar?
Similar?
I just realized that.
Similar?
All right, Adam. All right. But we will move on from our Warhawk thought to the Warhawk football game this weekend, and
Can we not talk about this?
we'll try to keep it quick and easy. But Whitewater fell.
Quick and- but-
Whitewater fell 17-10 against UW Platteville this weekend, and like a majority of us were saying last week with this stretch of games, we visualized all sorts of outcomes. A 3-0 stretch for Whitewater, 0-3, 2-1. It could have been any result. But with this game in particular, Zach, this was a winnable game from the start. And despite, 17-10 and Platteville dominating, Whitewater had several chances. Like, man, it's just depressing.
Yeah, for sure. It's just, I don't know what happened. I mean, well, I will say is, unfortunately, I didn't get a chance to watch the game, but when I saw the final score, I was like, what happened?
I mean, just brutal. I mean, ugh.
Didn't
on the
even
road,
score in the second half.
getting
Yeah, we
getting
didn't score at
blanked.
all in the second half. I was like, what happened in the second half? Did you guys, were
you
we
take
just
a
not
nap or
on it in the
something?
second half? Like, did we just fall apart, or what happened?
I believe this is the most losses
I
that
think
Whitewater's
since
had in a
two-
season.
Since 2002 or something.
I believe, yeah, since
0-2.
that
Which
was
was
the
also
year.
the last time they
22
lost to
years.
Stout, too. Which they
Man.
lost this year to Stout.
So I just looking at the stats from this game. I wasn't able to visually watch it, but I was watching the live play-by-play. There was one decision in particular that really kind of, I think, changed the momentum of the game. So Whitewater was up 10-7 in the fourth quarter, and it was 4th and goal from the 8 for Whitewater, and they elected to go for it instead of kicking the field goal.
Wait, on 4th and 8?
On 4th and goal from the 8-yard line,
Oh, I thought
they
you-
elected to
Yeah, that's
go
risky
for it
business.
instead of kicking a field goal.
I would
Adam,
kick the field
I would kick
what-
the field goal. I'd be like, why? Why would you go for the touchdown when you're like 4th and goal on the 8-yard line?
I mean, it seems, I don't want to try and speak on Rindall's behalf, but it seems like taking the points has got to be the decision there, no?
I think
Especially when you're winning.
Yeah, I mean, I think it was like Coach Lombardi that said you take points how you get them. So if it means like a field goal, it's a field goal. Like, you'll take like those 3 points.
Yeah.
But, and then you just got to trust your defense that they'll
Yeah.
hold Platteville to no points at all. And then you get the ball back and just run out the clock. But as you said, we're not trying to speak for Coach Rindall at all. So, but that's just what I think, honestly.
Yeah, that's what I was going to get at. I was going to say, to be honest, and I don't want to put any type of controversy or anything out there, but I think to some extent that's kind of showing, from my point of view, unless it was just genuinely a lapse in judgment, that the coach might not have trusted the defense to get a stop. And the kicker did miss a field goal earlier on that game wide left. I'd imagine they could hit a field goal from that close up. So I'm not
That's
even
a
sure what that would
25-yarder.
be. Yeah,
Yeah, that's like a chip
that should be a
shot.
layup for a kicker.
That's a
so
chip
I'm not
shot.
sure if he just didn't trust the kicker, didn't trust the defense, or if it was just a situation where they were overly confident. But in that situation, almost always, especially in tight games like that, you can't risk giving up the ball in that situation and giving them a chance to go down and make a play.
I just don't understand the decision. I mean, I've been trying to think about ways to defend it, but I really haven't come up with a scenario unless there was an injury we didn't know about with the kicker or some other undisclosed reason.
Yeah.
But I think 100 times out of 100, that's a field goal, especially with how your defense has been playing. Make them have to score a touchdown. Don't even give them the chance to have a field goal to tie. And then subsequently, after the failed fourth down conversion, on 3rd down and 10, they threw a 92-yard touchdown. And at that point, it just seemed like the momentum went away from Whitewater's sails. Chris, I got to ask you, I mean, tough loss here. Do you think this is going to be the tone for the rest of the season, or is there any chance of maybe trying to get some momentum back and finishing as strong as they can?
It's Whitewater football, so I think you got to try to get that momentum back. I mean, it was definitely a rough game. We lost. You look at the numbers didn't look too bad. The running game was pretty good. We had 181 yards amongst Noah Battle, Tamir Thomas, Jackson Christ put up some rushing yards. And then the passing game didn't look too bad, at least statistically. But, like, it's tough, but you got to keep fighting. There's still a few games to go in the season. We got homecoming this week, and then you got 2 more road games. I think you want to get that momentum back, given it's Whitewater football. You know, Whitewater football is always known for how tough they are. So
It's just a real bummer because
yeah,
my first 3 years, it's just been accustomed to seeing the playoffs and not really even thinking about it otherwise. And now, not only are we probably not going to make the playoffs, we're going to be middle of the WIAC, which is just uncharacteristic of this
That's
team.
not like us.
Carson, for the last 3 games, we got River Falls at home this weekend, subsequently followed by La Crosse and Eau Claire on the road. What is your projection for those 3 games?
Well, it seems there's no consistency at all. It's back and forth. So I think they're due for a win. I don't think they've lost 2 in a row. So I think it's time for a win against River Falls. But no, that
Exactly
game's
correct.
going to be tight no matter what.
I mean, it's homecoming. You got to win.
Yeah, River Falls and La Crosse just had a battle. La Crosse escaped them. But yeah, it's a must-win at every game. They got to win out if they want any shot.
Do you believe there's still? I haven't looked at the WIAC standings, but is there still is there a chaos scenario in which they could win the WIAC?
I think Platteville is tied with. I think Oshkosh and Platteville are 3-1 in the conference. UW Stout's 3-1 as well, which is crazy. So I don't think there's any hope. I mean, if there is, they're gonna have to win out, and they're gonna need some luck with Platteville, Osh, and Stout losing. So
They do own the tiebreaker over Oshkosh.
I think they're gonna these last 3. My projections 2-1. I think they beat River Falls at home, fall to La Crosse, and then stomp Eau Claire. So 2-1.
Any additional comments? I know last week was a little bit easier to discuss this football game, but I mean, we really discussed everything in this game. It was pretty boring defensive gridlock, and like I said, in the fourth quarter, the entire momentum of the game just completely shifted after that call.
Yeah, and they're still liable to the big play too. I mean, 92-yard on 3rd and 10 from the own 8-yard line, and they give up a 92-yard play. You can't have that, and that's kind of been a problem all year. Is they can't eliminate the big plays. So
brutal loss for the football team this week. I was dreading having to talk about it today. I was watching the play-by-play.
So did I come to school, everything I've heard is that our team is just, super, super good. Please tell me I didn't come in just as, we're turning around and we're going to be depressed more often. Because I feel like,
Whitewater
at least
fall
what I'm
off.
seeing this season, I'm an honest fan of any team that I'm a fan of, you know? And looking at it, we keep talking about getting stunned. I don't want to jinx anything, but depending on how the season goes, at what point do we just accept that maybe it's not the same? Because, what I keep hearing is, we're the Warhawks. We have a winning culture. But at what point do you have to start taking it year by year and really just looking at the team and being like, this might not be the same team that was, as amazing as we remember? Not to jinx it or anything. I do hope that we can turn it around, and I believe that we can. But at some point, you got to start looking at stuff from a little bit of a different lens.
yeah, I think if this same season happens next year, then we kind of gotta be in panic mode. But it could just be a 1-year fluke. You know, every great dynasty kind of has those. So
yeah, I think I said that last week about Alabama with Nick Saban. They would always have that 1 year where they would lose a game and maybe either not make the playoffs or make it and lose. That could very well be the case.
It's any given Saturday, but my personal theory that I think we're going with is I'm going to call it the Mason curse. Mason comes to Whitewater here,
Okay,
and all of a sudden we
gotcha.
start falling. So
Yeah, we'll go with that.
I think that's a perfectly fine solution.
That's why your Guardians lost. I'm sorry about that.
Yeah, all right, cool. Way to kick a man while he's
Hey,
down.
it wasn't me, it
Guardians
was
suck,
Mason.
Titans suck.
It's the Mason.
It's the Mason curse. It's the Mason curse. Thoughts on that, Mason?
This next topic.
Whitewater will play homecoming this weekend at home, obviously for homecoming. Duh, Brendan. November 2nd, 1 p.m. Against River Falls. I will be at that game, so
Me too.
let's try to get a win one time just to restore some spirit in us. But that'll move us on to our next topic. Shift a little bit happier here for some Wisconsin sports. We'll talk a little NFL, and the Packers yet again coming away with a victory, 30-27 over
McManus,
Jacksonville.
baby.
Back-to-back weeks with the game-winning field goal. I'll start with the Packers fans in the room, Adam and Chris. What were some big takeaways from this game that really impressed you with this win?
Well, besides the field goal, I mean, I don't. All right, I really can't speak for the defense because the defense was just kind of all over the place that game.
McKinney did get a pick, though.
He did get a pick. I will give you that. That is a highlight. I will give you that. But yeah. Besides that and like the field goal, I mean, there really wasn't anything much. I mean, besides Jordan Love getting hurt, that's kind of it's kind of a low light, not a highlight. But you know. But I heard that he's going to be, like, he should be okay this coming week, so.
Yeah, Love did get injured was it the third quarter or second quarter? I believe it was the third
Third,
quarter.
I think.
It was a third quarter.
Yeah.
But he was limping earlier. I noticed
Yeah.
that pretty early on in the game. He got tackled one time early, and it wasn't like super hint, but since then he wasn't as mobile and whatever else. Then the second time, that was just when it was that's the one that you guys are probably referring to. And I think that was like the third quarter.
Yeah, we
Yeah, it
noticed
was the third
there was a
quarter.
limp throughout the game. I don't know if it was the knee that was bothering him or if it was the injury sustained in this game for the groin. But Chris, Malik Willis, once again, especially after Jacksonville took the lead there in the fourth, I thought the game was over.
I thought it was too because the first two games I liked it because Malik Willis, had time to prepare. Matt LaFleur made an offense for him. This game, it was all Jordan Love until he went down, where then I was in a bit panic mode because I'm like, okay, we're throwing Malik Willis late into the game. He's not all prepared and everything, and man, did he look pretty good. I think it was that play towards the end where he threw it down to Jaden Reed. Oh my gosh, that was phenomenal. And like Adam said, the defense that game didn't look that great. Trevor Lawrence was honestly kind of cooking us, unfortunately.
I mean, he threw like 300 plus
Yeah.
yards, I think, yeah.
He did.
T-Law had a good game.
He did. But we held on, and it's nice to know we finally got a kicker. So,
Like I said, back-to-back weeks with the game-winning
Back-to-back.
field goal. And I want to shout out Tucker Kraft, especially for
Oh, yeah.
National Tight Ends Day yesterday. 3
Hey,
catches.
how about that little dance he did?
Yeah,
on
exactly.
his way to the end zone?
Emoting into the end zone. That was electric. 3 catches for
dance.
78 yards and a touchdown. But Malik Willis, like you said, I believe the best word to describe it is serviceable. It's not a guy that when your starting quarterback goes down that you start freaking out, but it's also a guy that really you don't think you can build a franchise around. But he is the perfect backup quarterback. He fills his role. He does what he needs to do. Had a couple great plays with his feet. Had a couple nice throws, including the one to Jaden Reed. Only threw it 5 times, but had the biggest throw of the game by far to set up the Packers in field goal range. And I forget which running back it was. I believe it was Brooks. But instead of getting into the end zone, going down after getting the first down
That was smart.
to set up the chip shot field goal, a lot of rookies you see make that mistake and want to get that touchdown.
Mm-hmm.
I thought that was a very, very classy move on his part to really set up your team for
I
victory.
think it was like the year that Todd Gurley was in Atlanta. They were playing Detroit, and
I
he
remember
tried to
that.
stop himself, went in, and Detroit ended up winning.
Brutal game. Falcons fans have been through it. But like I said, great win for the Packers. Hopefully Love can come back because the true test is this weekend against Detroit. I believe, is it in Green Bay? It is. So a home game against Detroit this weekend on Fox, so we'll look forward to having Brady commentate that game more than likely
yeah.
in the afternoon.
The GOAT.
But big game for the Packers. I wish the bye week was this week and not next week to give Love really full time to recover, but that's just how the schedule goes sometimes. Some teams just happen to have bye weeks at the perfect time, and others could have come a week sooner or could have come a week later. But yes, Packers 30-27, 6-2 on the season. And now we'll transition over to Zach. Zach, normally I like to trash on the Eagles, but man, did they look good this weekend.
Very good. Much needed win for sure. Jalen Hurts, 3 touchdowns. Devontae Smith with 1. Saquon Barkley, 22 carries, 108 yards. He didn't score any touchdowns this game, which I am a little surprised at that. But at the end of the day, it doesn't matter. We won. Who cares?
Nick Sirianni and that doggone tush push. Saquon fantasy owners.
He's 3-0 since getting that dang haircut.
But no, it was a great game. Great game for Philadelphia. It was one of the better Hurts performances this year. I started calling him out earlier on in some Hawk Talks, but Hurts looked sharp, had a couple really, really nice throws.
Yeah.
And now I believe, we've been discussing it before, but I'm going to ask this to all of you. We've been talking about it, but are the Bengals, are they done? I mean, 3-5, 0-4 at home now in the season.
Carson finally hop
They're
off
done.
the bus.
Sorry. Bye,
Cooked.
Cincinnati.
They are cooked.
I think the rest of the AFC, I feel like they still maybe have a small chance. It's small, but it's there because, Indianapolis and Denver this year have had solid years. But what if they start to, kind of derail a little bit? Maybe Cincinnati can take advantage of that.
Currently, Cincinnati ranks 9th in the AFC, and I really believe the AFC is just too top-heavy for Cincinnati to make a run at this point. Maybe.
I'm looking at their
That's-
schedule, and it's. We'll hear you can continue going.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. There's a chance, especially if some of those other teams, those maybe inexperienced teams like Indianapolis, Denver, who have been doing solid this year, kind of derailed, and Cincinnati can maybe take advantage of that. But still, they've got to play Baltimore and Pittsburgh, who have been great this year, and I don't know the rest of Cincinnati's schedule necessarily, but they struggled this year. So again, they just got to take advantage of what they get.
Yeah, their remaining schedule is not by any means easy. They do have Vegas this week. That should be winnable. But then you're on the road against Baltimore, on the road against the Chargers, at home against the Steelers. And then even though the Cowboys haven't been that great, it's never easy to win in Dallas. And that's a 4 or 5 game stretch that they could very easily go 1-4. Mason will hold your thoughts. We'll get to that game in a second. But still, I mean, it's just panic mode in Cincinnati, 100%.
For sure.
It sucks because Joe
Burrow's been balling.
Yeah.
And I'm not exactly the biggest Burrow fan, but he's proven me wrong this year. He's done what he could, but between poor defense and terrible O-line, it's not going to set up a winning recipe for what you need to succeed in the NFL. And Philadelphia took clear advantage of that this weekend. The ground game is working. And as a Saquon fantasy owner, can we get rid of the tush push, please? You
No.
could have scored one time.
No, we're never getting
It has an 82% success rate.
Even Saquon, I think it was the week before, he was telling the coach, "Can we do it? Can we do it? Can we do it?"
I mean, it works. It's annoying, but it works. Anytime it's third and short.
I remember last
Yes,
season they were talking
it
about
works.
banning it, and then I just see it come back this year. I'm like, it's never going to leave.
As long as as much as I despise it, you can't make a rule against a play.
That would be kind of,
You can't ban a play just because a team's good at it. That would be like
Right.
the Chiefs in the Super Bowl that one year where they ran the route with Kadarius Toney, looked like a motion and then quick jet back.
the
You
one
can't-
good thing Kadarius Toney ever did.
Yeah. And now he's practice squad in Cleveland.
Okay, he got that punt return too, so that makes 2 things, but that's it.
Known 2-time Super Bowl champion Kadarius Toney. But we will move on to another game. Adam, any game that this week that really caught your eye that you really want to discuss?
Surprisingly enough, I have to say the Browns.
Shout out the Browns, man.
yeah.
How did they?
Jameis show.
Yeah, taking down the Ravens. I honestly didn't
Wow.
think that the Browns had it in them to beat the Ravens, but yeah, 29-24. Yeah, I mean, I couldn't complain about that, and definitely know why Lamar was a little frustrated, like why he threw his helmet down. But yeah, that was honest. Like when I saw that score when it was done, I'm like, really?
Yeah, there was just so many missed opportunities from Baltimore that game. A lot of drop passes, a dropped interception, a couple dropped interceptions actually. But even still, I was discussing with my buddies this past week that if there was ever a trap game in the NFL, this week for the Browns was, because we have no film of Winston in Cleveland yet. It's a division game, so those are always going to be close. And just genuinely, the Browns always play the Ravens well. And then after the news on Saturday of the Browns' longtime radio announcer, Jim Donovan, passing away from cancer, I just had a feeling, I was like, the whole city is going to be rallying for him this game. And Jameis looked great. I mean, he had a couple throws that Baltimore dropped that should have very well been interceptions, but he made that Winston to Cedric Tillman connection like a staple. My brother started him in fantasy this week, Cedric Tillman. He was owned in 15% of leagues, and he's like, I just have a feeling about him this week, and he ended up winning his matchup. So shout out my brother for that pickup. But 7 catches, 99 yards, 2 touchdowns. I didn't know what a Cedric Tillman was or who Cedric Tillman was going into this week, but he came out of nowhere, and Winston looked great. So just to therefore prove again that any given Sunday.
I mean, that's kind of what Jameis Winston does, though. Like, if Jordan Love, they're calling Jordan Love a gunslinger, then Jameis Winston is a bazooka slinger. He just throws the ball, just launches it down there, and it just whoever it hits, it's going to hit him. And he kind of just throws it hard enough and just hopes that the defense doesn't intercept it. Lots of the time they do, but when they don't, he looks like an elite QB, and he was making the Browns look really good. So.
Like that one year where he threw 5,000 yards and like 33 touchdowns. I'm like, oh, that looks good. And then you look at the interceptions.
Yeah,
like,
30, the 30-30 club.
He plays like a Madden player. Like, just launch the ball and just hope, just pray.
And that dude he's such a good leader. I love how he can rally his guys. In his post-game interview where he quoted Eminem, just electric stuff. And then his post-game presser where he's talking, like the PR training is crazy. He's awesome. He's hilarious. I'm really glad you brought that game up, Adam, because that was one of the many crazy games in the NFL this weekend. Chris, any NFL game that caught your eye this weekend you want to talk about?
Hail Jaden.
I was gonna say we were gonna
get there at one point. I knew Carson was gonna want to address it,
I've
but
been waiting.
Gosh, I mean, that game didn't look too pretty for either team. I mean, Washington had to settle for all those field goals in the first half. Chicago gets a big touchdown, and I'm thinking at the very end there, it's over. It's completely over. Even Tony Romo's like, put Marcus Mariota in. I'm like, it doesn't matter now. Like, it's over. And then Daniels just heaves it. Ball gets tipped. I see one guy by himself in the back. I'm like, oh my gosh, no way. And he caught it, which is both legendary and hilarious to me, getting to see Chicago Bears fans just cry. But
Take that, Tyreek.
It was a perfect game for me because my favorite quarterback in this draft beats my least favorite quarterback in this draft. Getting to see the Bears lose, see this gritty Washington team win, it was a perfect game.
I was not too high on Jaden Daniels until they started winning, and this game really solidified that Daniels is like, I'm a big Daniels believer now.
And he played hurt. He had he had a wrap around his ribs from the previous week. Carson, I know you're dying to talk about Caleb Williams and his elite stat line from this game.
Well, give him an old line for once.
I agree.
That's a good point.
Terrible, but
I agree.
yeah, I mean, probably the most gut-wrenching regular season loss that I can think of. And 5-2 looked a lot better than 4-3, but
I was just gonna say.
I mean, we shouldn't even won that game in the first place. We got so lucky with them not being able to do a thing in the red zone, so that helped us out a lot. I didn't even think we had a shot, so the fact that we did, I don't know. I just try to make myself feel better about it at this point, but nothing can do it. So
long
and yeah,
day
Tyreek
yesterday.
Stevenson, I think that was a cuttable offense right there, but I don't know.
So, did everyone see that Tyreek Stevenson for the Bears?
Yeah.
Celebrating and emoting on the fans, and then subsequently
And then he
being the
tips it
one
right
who
to his
has the
hand.
tip to Noah Brown.
And even I think someone said, I think it was Coach Eberflus or somebody said that his job was to box out Noah Brown
Yeah,
on
the
the
guy
Hail
that
Mary.
caught it.
He was the only guy that wasn't being covered by a corner. Just, oh.
But yeah, there was being a Bears fan, like it always sits in the back of your head. Like when there's 3 seconds left, I'm like, all right, I'm not celebrating until it's over. Like not doing anything until it's over. Because even when we scored to go up 3, I was not satisfied yet, and that's why. So you learn to
You
expect
can't
the
ever
worst.
expect that,
Yeah.
though. Just absolutely brutal. Jaden Daniels with 326 passing yards, and the Commanders' offense getting 1 touchdown on the day, and most important one of the weekend and probably the season thus far. To
Yeah,
avoid
needed that one to go 5-2, but
like
man,
you
we
said,
got a gauntlet coming up too, so this was definitely kind of a must-win. But
5-2 looks so much better than 4-3. And
6-2. The Commanders are 6-2.
so shout out the Washington Commanders real quick, currently leading that NFC East. No one saw that coming. I believed in Jaden Daniels. I didn't believe in him this early on in his career, but he's been awesome.
Here's what I would like to see. Washington wins the NFC East, the entire NFC North makes the playoffs. But if someone else like Philadelphia wins the NFC East, I want to see the Bears miss the playoffs just so the Commanders get in.
You are just diabolical, hating on your Carson and the fish
I'm
mix over
sorry. Packers hate the
man,
Bears.
I just wish the Packers had some of the bad luck that the Bears had. Like when does it ever end?
there. The Packers.
The Packers always get bailed out by something. I'm sick of it.
Jay Cutler.
Oh man, the
Jay
Packers.
Cutler, one of the best quarterbacks in Packers history.
the Packers.
If there's already a YouTube video, like an 8-minute long YouTube video of all the Jay Cutler interceptions against the Packers in his career. So
All right, don't kick the guy while he's
Oh.
down over there.
We're so sorry.
about that.
I'm sorry.
about that.
Well,
Apologies, my friend.
Hopefully we can make peace someday.
Carson,
We will.
give me a game to distract yourself from the sorrows of the one that Chris just had to bring up against you.
52-14.
We didn't have to talk about that one. I was defending you.
Now we're attacking
Well, no, you were talking mad about Caleb, so
All right,
no.
you can go ahead and talk about it.
Yeah, you can if you want. I didn't watch it personally while it wasn't on, but the Lions.
You weren't missing much.
The Lions are looking like the best team in the NFC for sure, and I don't know who's going to stop them. I don't think the Packers are going to, but
I agree.
other than that, there was a lot of close games. I mean, the AFC South, Houston squeezing past the Colts. I mean, the Cardinals squeezing past the Dolphins, Falcons squeezing past the Bucks. So there was
A lot of great games.
yeah,
this
there was a
weekend.
lot of good ones. So.
But to highlight that first one, 52-14, Mason Rudolph and Jared Goff, known quarterback masterclass matchup there. But that being said, it's a combination of the Titans being awful and the Lions just being that good. Fun fact for all you guys, the Lions became the 3rd team ever in NFL history to score 50 points without getting 100 passing yards.
Wow.
Just proving how bad.
They've scored like 45 or more a couple times this season. It's pretty insane.
Their offensive scheme is really well done. Ben Johnson is a tremendous offensive coordinator. Our special teams are horrendous. They had a couple punt returns setting them up within the 30, I think 3 total kick returns and punt returns that got them well into great position. So really just easy game. Hope you started the Lions offense in fantasy.
Remember, like a couple years ago when it was the opposite, where the Lions like just got Dan Campbell and Jared Goff. They were still one of the worst teams in football, and the Titans were the #1 seed in the AFC.
Yeah, I remember those days.
Tannehill days.
Yeah, I remember being happy.
Another game. I don't know how I didn't mention this one, but the Jets still looking awful. So
Yeah, let's talk about that one.
Yeah.
Especially
Patriots.
Packers fans listening here. Oh, man,
I
the
hate
Jets.
to see it.
The Jets, man. It's how much.
I mean, Rodgers wasn't terrible that game. but-
Rodgers was fine.
Yeah.
And especially after May got hurt, I was like, yeah. I was like, all right, if there was an upset watch, it's gone now. Brissett's not going to do anything. And I just,
Yeah, the Jets are supposed to be a defensive team too, and they're letting up 25
I
to
think
the Patriots.
it has to do with them firing Robert Sala.
I was just
Yeah.
going to say.
Such a great defensive mind. They let him go like that, and the defense just falls apart.
It's just an
Grass ain't
absolute
always greener.
stunner.
I still won't understand them firing their coach literally in what, week 6, week 7, in the Jets. When I first heard that he got fired, I was like, I'm confused. I'm like, why are they making this move?
There are plenty of other head coaches, i.e. Mike McCarthy, that should have been fired way before Saleh, in my opinion.
Well, you guys got him on the Packers staff
What I mean
now,
is
so.
but this point of the season, it's like, why are you making this move now?
Just the Jets were supposed to be all in this year, I really feel like, and I was a backer of them. I really was. I thought the whole reason last year that they didn't do anything was just Rodgers being injured. He comes back this year. I was so
They're even
high on the
worse.
Jets. They're even worse, like you said. At least Zach had them at 4-2 through week 6 or through 6 games.
Yeah, they're a win now team too. They're pretty old, so that's
I
not
believe
good.
have the oldest roster in football.
Not good for
I'm
them.
thinking of that SpongeBob clip where Patrick's going, "What is this place?" That's Devontae Adams right now.
What kind of place is this?
What kind of place is this?
I mean, looking at everything, obviously first off, the Jets defense is not looking as good. People aren't
As
talking about
advertised.
Sauce Gardner taking a step back. I mean, it's a sophomore slump. He's not as like last year. He was looking like the best cornerback in football, arguably. I still had Patrick Surtain probably, but Sauce is up there in like the top 3 conversations. But looking at the stats, I mean, Aaron Rodgers, he had a pretty good game. Garrett Wilson had a pretty great game. He just wasn't able to get a touchdown. You got a touchdown from Tyler Conklin. Shout out Tight Ends Day. Devontae's still finding things out. But there's a polar bear in Arlington, Texas when I'm looking at the stats and watching the games. Why does Braylon Allen have 12 carries when he's averaging 2.7 yards per carry? And he's vulturing all of Brees's touches and touchdowns. Usually you pick one or the other. Like one of them will get all the touches, but the other one will just take the touchdowns. I don't know what it is about the Jets that just makes them hate having an amazing player and just don't give him the ball for whatever reason. But Brees Hall only having 4 more carries than Braylon Allen and nearly 50 more yards and just being objectively the far better player, and they just aren't giving him the ball like they need to, that is upsetting. Now, I am also a Brees Hall fantasy owner.
I was gonna say,
But
you're-
also,
I was about to
just
say, I
watching
think
the
I can
game,
guess who's a Brees Hall fantasy
literally
owner.
just watching the game. I'm watching, and I'm like, why are they just acting like he doesn't exist? And it's been a recurring occurrence through all these games they keep on losing. That's just incredibly confusing because, I mean, besides the defense not playing as good, their offense did a decent job. I mean, one of the better jobs they've done this season, especially looking at Garrett Wilson's numbers. So the Jets, it is what it is. I'm also not feeling bad for them because, I mean, Aaron Rodgers left. At first, I was like, maybe I'll support the Jets. I mean, hey, shout out Aaron Rodgers and shout out the old guys. But then once they got Devontae Adams, I'm a Jets hater now. So I'm happy they lost. And I
Lost
hope
by
they keep
5 in fantasy with my Brees Hall team, and I'm like, man, if he had like any other game this year,
Nearly doubling
would've won.
Braylon Allen's yards per carry,
Yeah, I
and
know.
only 4 more attempts.
I just need 1 touchdown. I might lose my game now if Malik Neighbors goes off. So I
Gotta lock in.
gotta hope that doesn't happen.
A lot of great games this weekend. We were highlighting them all. I wanted to shout out my boy Kirk Cousins for that performance. 22 of 29, 276 yards and 4 touchdowns. And now the Falcons seem to be the clear favorites in the NFC South, just strictly because of scheduling for Tampa Bay. We were talking about this earlier, how like bye weeks come and go and just how schedules pan out. The Buccaneers could not have played the Falcons at a worse week than this week after losing Evans and Godwin. And so now Atlanta is 2-0 against Tampa on the year. So big win for Atlanta there. Looking great for my prediction of
They just
Atlanta winning
seem-
NFC South.
The Falcons also seem to not really have an identity, though. I mean, they're 5-3, but there's just not much consistency. I mean, they look so great in some of these weeks, and then they just take 2 steps back the next week. So
I agree with that. They are middle of the pack relative to the NFC, but in terms of the
yeah, I think they're coming
division.
out of the division. Yeah, for sure.
I mean, their really biggest competition was Tampa Bay, and they've already beat them both games this year, solidifying, I believe, the NFC South there because the Panthers and Saints are two teams that shouldn't
Well, the
exist.
Saints at the beginning, they were like, oh, and then they're like
2-0, and they were
oh.
they blew out the first 2 teams, and now they've lost 6 straight.
Another game I wanted to mention because we had my little hot take watch about my take last week with Kansas City. Once again, not the greatest performance from Mahomes and the Chiefs in general, but they find a way to win again,
They make me
27-20.
sick.
And like I said, I'm not saying this as a Chiefs fan, but I'm going to say it again, and I'm going to say this every week on Hawk Talk until they lose or until they eventually go undefeated. But they will go undefeated this year and win the Super Bowl. I'm going to say this every Monday Hawk Talk. They are going to go undefeated and win the Super Bowl.
I brought that up on Wednesday, and they didn't know if you were serious, if it was sarcasm, and I'm like, no, he's serious.
I am 100% for real. And it's Mahomes is having the worst year of his career by far, and the Chiefs still finding ways to win games. And now they made another big trade today for another pass rusher, Uche. I don't know how to say his last name.
Detroit.
Yeah. So another great piece already to a elite defense in Kansas City, and I just don't see any way the Chiefs lose a game this year between just Andy Reid's coaching, Steve Spagnuolo's defense. They look great, and I believe the NFL wants them to go undefeated this year to finally, like I said, not finally, but really assert the GOAT talk between Brady and Mahomes. But last game we'll talk about before we transition over to our next topic. I know Mason's dying to talk about the downfall of the Dallas Cowboys. Sunday Night Football last night, 49ers win 30-24. Mason, you have the floor.
You know what's funny? I actually wasn't even going to talk about that game as my one that I was going to pick. I knew that was the layup answer. So real quick, I just want to shout out my Rams. That's my secondary team. I like the Rams being the Vikings, showing the Vikings are beatable. But I mean, since we brought it up and it's right there. I mean,
That was a game we forgot to mention. Yeah.
So sometimes you just got to take the easy layup. And I believe it was here when I said that Dak Prescott was just Trevor Lawrence on a different team, or maybe that was on the Wednesday show. But if I didn't say here, then I'll regurgitate that here. He's just black Trevor Lawrence with worse hair. It
With
is what it
worse
is.
hair, it's crazy.
And then I'm looking at him, you know, if you showed somebody years ago, oh my God, Ezekiel Elliott and Dalvin Cook in the same backfield, they would have lost their mind, especially as a Dallas fan. You'd think that would be the best running back duo in the world.
And
They
it's
combined
5 years too
for
late.
46 yards total. And Zeke somehow had a touchdown. That their run game, I actually kind of feel sad. Like, I really do. The fact that they had a wide receiver go out there and rush one time and get one less yard than Dalvin Cook, who ran 6 times for 12, versus Cavante Turpin running 1 time for 11. Dak Prescott, 25 for 38, 243 yards, 2 touchdowns. That looks great. But then you remember it's Dak Prescott, and of course he has 2 interceptions. And they only lost by 6, so you got to wonder what would happen if he didn't throw those interceptions.
The offense
But-
was clicking in the fourth.
I mean, that's kind of the story of the Cowboys, though, right? Like, their offense always clicks in the fourth once
Too
they're
little, too late.
already losing. The 49ers are also not a great football team this year. It was actually just kind of a battle of my 2 least favorite teams. Sad to see Jordan Mason go down, but I mean, the 49ers handled business. That should have been a layup of a game. I'm surprised it was even that close. But their run game was a little bit stifled by the fact they did have to put in Isaac Grindo, who still did have himself a little game, 14 carries, 85
Shout out
yards.
Wisconsin legend Isaac Guerrero.
Oh,
But I mean, the Cowboys, man, that at some point, like, first off, free CeeDee Lamb, just free him 146 yards, 2 touchdowns. Jesus Christ.
You go.
Yeah. But man, he is really, really, really good, and he doesn't deserve to be on a team with Dak Prescott. And none of them deserve to be on a team with Ezekiel Elliott and Dalvin Cook in the huge 2024. And I'm not sure what their schedule's looking like moving forward, but if I'm a Cowboys fan, I'm going to start looking for other teams to root for
Atlanta
this season.
next week,
It's-
followed by Philadelphia, Houston,
Ooh,
Washington.
Philly's going to give them. Oh,
So,
my God.
It's
That's-
not looking pretty.
Not looking good
Let's
for
go
Dallas.
Philly.
Oh my
Meanwhile, for San Francisco, I do want to highlight that their bye week, we were just talking about this, about bye weeks coming at bad times and good times. This bye week is awesome for Frisco. You get a nice escape victory against the Cowboys, and now you set up one more week for McCaffrey to get healthy. And according to Shanahan, McCaffrey will be questionable.
Can we
in week
trust
10.
Shanahan though? Like,
Oh, God, please, no.
As a longtime McCaffrey owner this year, I've held out. He's been sitting in my IR spot all year waiting. And with now these lingering injuries with Mason, McCaffrey could not come back at a better time for the 49ers. But any other things that we're missing from the NFL? We got a elite game tonight between the Giants and Steelers that I will totally not be
That,
watching.
that Broncos game looked kind of good, you know.
Bo Nix.
Yeah.
Shout out Bo
Bo
Nix.
Nix.
Who said Bo Nix is going to be the next Peyton Manning?
I never
Shout
said
out.
he
No.
will
First,
be.
hey, wait, hold on.
No,
that
he
takes
was-
getting better every single week. I'm not gonna lie.
Right, well,
Bo Nix is looking beautiful, man. Like, I was watching him play. He can.
Yeah, well, when Caleb Williams goes off against the Panthers, they're terrible. Sorry.
The narrative is crazy.
I mean, one of them paints their nails, though. That's what
No,
they hate.
all right. Don't
I'm
be
not
hating
speaking
on
for
the
myself.
guy.
I love Caleb. I like Caleb.
But yes, great week of NFL football. A lot of great games, including, the Falcons, the Packers, and a great week for Green Bay. And like I said, sucks that it has to end on such a boring game tonight between two middle of the pack. I guess you could say Steelers upper middle of the pack, but we'll definitely not be tuned into that. We'll much be rather watching what we're about to discuss next in our next topic. Game 3 of the World Series tonight. The Dodgers currently lead the series 2-0, and we just have to talk about Game 1. I was at the Predators-Blackhawks game in Chicago Friday night. Shout out the Nashville Predators. Talk about some hockey later on some future Hawk Talks.
Oh, please don't talk about that. Don't talk about my Blackhawks. Come on.
Predators 3, Blackhawks 2. Great game,
Predators are better.
but happened to just
terrible game.
happened to get
Greatest game
back to
ever.
the hotel just to catch one last at bat from Mr. Freddie Freeman. I see Nestor Cortez in, bases loaded. I was like, wow, we couldn't have gotten back at a better time. First pitch, see a ball, no doubter. Zach, is that an all-time moment in MLB history?
Oh, for sure. Well, for this year in the World Series, but what I say all-time MLB, probably.
I mean, without a doubt, in my
But
opinion.
I'll never forget. I was home this weekend, and I got the chance to watch the whole game of Game 1, and just seeing Freddie Freeman, I was like, oh, they may. I actually thought they would have a shot at the Yankees after they got Ohtani out, and then once when Ohtani popped it out, I was like, oh, I think the Yankees might get it here. And then when they intentionally walked Mookie Betts, I was like, oh, I think it's still gonna be Yankees. But when Freddie Freeman came up, I was like, oh, I don't know. And then literally the first pitch, out of here. I was like, no way, that's gone. And then it came, and then it went out, and I was laughing. I was like, no way.
It really takes away from how great that Verdugo catch was on Ohtani because everyone is expecting Ohtani to walk it off.
I was
And
expecting it too.
First pitch, Ohtani hits a little bloop foul ball. Verdugo makes an insane catch, but we're never going to be talking about it because of what Freeman did.
Yeah.
Adam, Dodgers lead 2-0 in the series for the Yankees tonight. Must win, correct?
Yeah. I mean, you have Walker Buehler going for the Dodgers. I mean, that's going to be tough enough. And I mean, for the Yankees, I mean, Clark Schmidt, he's been okay this year, but this is definitely a must win. For the Yankees, if they have any chance of trying to survive in this series. But I was going back to what you guys were talking about with the walk-off. It's that's what every little kid who dreams of playing in the majors dreams of. You're in the World Series and you walk it off on a grand slam.
First
Who doesn't
walk-off
dream of
grand
that?
slam
Who
in
doesn't dream
World
about
Series
that, huh?
history. I mean, every little kid, that plays baseball is full count, 2 outs, bottom of the 9th, bottom of the 10th, whatever. Bases loaded, losing. Every person dreams of that moment. And for first pitch, and it could have happened to a better guy in Freddie Freeman. I know he's a Dodger, but that dude is a genuine class act, great family guy, does a lot for the game of baseball. So I was very happy to see that, especially against the Yankees after the ALCS incident. But for the fishbowl here, Ohtani sustained an injury in Game 2, putting him out for the game. But Dave Roberts tonight announced that Ohtani will play. Is this something that will linger with Ohtani, or do you think it was just a weird-looking injury that won't really mean anything long-term?
You know what? I'm not even so. First off, I want to address about some people were saying, oh, if Ohtani's not playing, it's over for the Dodgers.
I disagree.
Yeah,
I completely disagree because honestly, it's not been a bad World Series for Ohtani, but it's baseball. Baseball, you lose one guy. If you've got other guys, which the Dodgers have plenty of them, it's not the end of the world. I think
Tommy Edman, he's had the playoffs of his life,
Tommy Edman,
and he's their 9-hole.
they've got Freddie Freeman, who's been balling out in this World Series, which, by the way, that call that Joe Davis made on that home run was just beautiful.
Cinema.
Gibby meet Freddie. Oh, my gosh. Oh.
That was
But
electric.
I'm honestly not too worried about it. Now, obviously, you want to have Ohtani healthy because, he can definitely be a big difference maker. The injury didn't, initially in the moment, it was definitely something where it's oh, man, that's not good. and it even looked kind of serious. But from the sound of it, it's not too bad. So
Subluxation
Yeah,
was the
I've never-
official diagnosis, and I'm not a doctor.
apparently it's not that bad.
It's like a minor dislocation.
Yeah, it's like apparently like a dislocation that pops itself right back in.
So
So
I bet subluxation was the most.
sore.
yeah, people were talking about like he could probably play Monday as long as the pain isn't too severe, and we don't know much about that. So hopefully it's not too bad, but I'm not too worried about it in the long term, to be honest.
I mean, like I said, any surgery or fixing up, they have a whole offseason to do that. We got only 5 games maximum left in this World Series. Last question I'll pose to you all in the fishbowl, Carson and Mason specifically. We need to have a discussion about Aaron Judge this postseason. He has been horrendous. One of the most elite hitters in the regular season has just seemingly fallen off a cliff. He needs to step up tonight. Yes, no? I mean,
Yeah, yeah, you can't argue with that. Yeah, and the Yankees, I mean, you can argue if he was playing like he does in the regular season. I mean, this could be a different series if he's hitting some of those bombs that he usually does, or actually just getting a hit in general. But yeah, definitely a must-win for the Yankees. I think they're gonna win tonight. Judge does need to come alive. He's kind of running out of time to do something. But I think they're gonna split these next 2 games. So I think it's gonna be 3-1.
3-1
And
going
then
into Game 5.
I could see it going into 6, I think.
Yeah,
So I
my
got
original
Dodgers in 6. Originally I had Dodgers in 7, but I can't see it going to 7. But
my
you
original
never
prediction going into 7 is also looking like it looks like it's going to be the Dodgers series. Mason, any thoughts on the series and Judge's performance?
I mean, first off, in terms of like Aaron Judge and even Shohei Ohtani, these are like some of the names that like I know even as a super casual of baseball, and it is disappointing like seeing them and hearing of them like consistently underplaying their expectations. But at the same time, I mean, Shohei Ohtani getting injured kind of just confirmed to me that the Dodgers are going to win this series because I mean, we see face mask LeBron and Kyrie, flu game Michael Jordan. How about shoulder subluxation Shohei Ohtani?
Shoulder
I feel like he's
subluxation
going to come
Shohei.
back in and his first hit's going to be automatic, out of the park. Maybe the longest hit in MLB history. You know, and then also, just as a casual fan, I'm wondering if it's just a normal thing that like after every Asian player hits the ball, it just shows a random Asian guy in the crowd, or if that's just like a Shohei Ohtani thing. That's something I've been seeing all over Twitter and in the games. And I'm not sure if that's normal, but
Watch
I feel
yourself.
like this is just a fairy tale type thing that they got going on for Shohei. I feel like he's like
Watch yourself. my friend.
just the guy and his aura.
That's too
Whether
strikes
he's
on you now.
healthy or not, then I feel like he got it. That's not a strike. I'm genuinely asking because that's just weird.
I was gonna
that's
say-
like weird.
No,
That's like
we're talking about the Patrick Mahomes comment from earlier.
Yes.
No, this is strike number 2
my
on you, man.
Yeah.
No, come on, guys. My final thought prediction, you just mentioned it, but my final thought prediction was going to be Shohei does hit a home run tonight. He's 1 for 3 off his career against Clark Schmidt, and one of those is a home run. Especially with all the serious doubt regarding the shoulder and the short porch at Yankee Stadium, I think my final prediction for that game will be Shohei Ohtani leadoff home run to start the game.
I would love to see another Freddie Freeman bomb too. That would be awesome.
Same.
I think it's going to be a great high-scoring game tonight. First game with a short porch in a must-win game for the Yankees. I expect a legacy game from them all. But Zach, final thoughts as we wind down this Monday Hawk Talk.
I'm going to make prediction for tonight's Game 3 World Series. I think Dodgers are going to win again and be 1 win away from winning the World Series.
Dodgers go 3-0 according
Yep.
to Zach. Adam, final thoughts.
I think the Yankees get it done tonight.
Yankees
so
get
they're
it done.
1 game away from evening the World Series.
Adam's going to go 2-1 for his final thoughts. Chris.
I'll go Dodgers tonight. I'm also going to make a very bold prediction on the Monday night game and say that the Giants beat the Steelers.
Ooh, hot take.
Ooh.
I love it. I love it. Danny Jones is due for a primetime dub.
This is the seat that you sit in for those kind of predictions.
Carson, final thoughts.
Yeah, I think the Yankees are not evening up the series, but I think they win tonight, and then switching it up from baseball. A week from today, we'll be talking about college basketball, so I'm looking forward to
Yes,
that.
sir.
Just
1
to-
week closer.
Yeah.
Mason, final thoughts.
Yeah, I got probably. To be honest, I think I'm gonna go the other way and say the Yankees get there 1 game. with this next one coming up. But then I think the Dodgers probably take the next two, in my very casual opinion, though.
I got the Yankees tonight in a thriller, 8-6, and the Predators and Steven Stamkos return to Tampa Bay. Will have a goal tonight for the Nashville Predators as they extend their win streak to 4. This will conclude our Monday Hawk Talk.